So today I wanted to talk about a psychological concept that I think is applicable to racket stringing and the whole idea of leveling up your racket stringing or becoming a better racket stringer, becoming more proficient, getting better at your craft. And so basically, this concept I'm talking about is the learner mindset, okay, which is also synonymous with the growth mindset. So I do have some notes, and so I'm going to kind of go through that and see, how it fits into racket stringing and specifically the process of developing your craft and how maybe this can help you to look at things a little bit different. Obviously, the opposite of a learner mindset is like a fixed, closed mindset where you're not willing to take things in. Because I know we all tend to sometimes take things too personal when we're learning, especially something like this, because it's a craft where you feel like you're personally being attacked when somebody criticizes the way that you tie a knot or the way that you strung a racket or how your racket, that was the worst stringing job ever. And, that kind of gets to you, right? So having a learner mindset to learn and go beyond that. So I think the first thing we want to look at is fundamental beliefs. So with the learner mindset, uh, you know, think about that's something that you can develop with good teaching, with putting good effort in, being persistent. Um, and we can all get better and smarter if we work at it. Okay, that's kind of the whole idea about this fundamental belief set for the learner mindset. And so then that also brings us to how do we respond to challenges? So the learner mindset attitude would be that we're going to embrace it and that we see opportunities to grow. If you're more of a fixed mindset, you're going to avoid challenges because you are, the fear of failure and how that could implicate into your self-image, right? And so for stringing, if we, you know, run into a challenge, are we going to learn from it or are we going to be bitter from it? I think that's one way to look at it. Also, at the end, I'm going to in the description, I will have like a little quiz that you could take to see if you fit more into the open mindset, or if you growth mindset, or if you have a more of a fixed mindset. So, anyways, the next thing, effort perception. Okay, so the learner mindset would look at it as viewing your efforts as the necessary path to get to where you want to be. I know that I have to put effort in order to get better. It's not just going to happen because the effort is what makes you better, right? And that's what creates that talent. The fixed mindset would see effort as it fruitless or worse, as sometimes only those with insufficient talent would require that to happen. So think about that when you are learning to string and viewing like, okay, I'm going to put in extra work. I'm going to learn a few extra knots. And that could be valuable. The next thing is handling of feedback. Okay. This is sometimes where I think might have some challenges with accepting feedback, right? So the learner mindset, they're going to learn from criticism and often use it as a tool for self-improvement. This is really important with racket stringing, especially if you want to get to a more of a professional level or you want to just scale up your ability. You have to be willing to accept criticism, because if you don't, you're going to continue to do things that the way that you did them, and you're not going to learn from others, because there's more than one way to do something. Sometimes another perspective can help you to develop a bigger understanding, more global view, and maybe help you to just get better with your craft. So yeah, so the fixed mindset here for the handling of feedback would ignore useful negative feedback, often feel offended or threatened by criticism. How many times have you felt threatened by criticism? I know I have many times, and maybe sometimes it's maybe been something where I'm just like, okay, well, I'm not going to listen to that person. And it's happened to me in even with when I was learning from people who were a lot better in the trade than me. I wasn't ready to accept criticism. Like, as an example, like I've always, when I was weaving crosses, I would always go out with weaving them going forward instead of towards me. And there are a lot more efficient ways of weaving, especially when you're dealing with polyester string. And I never really embraced that. So I think that slowed me down. I figured out how to work around it and make it work. But honestly, if I would have just taken the feedback and learned from it, I could have gotten better. And so I think that's still something that I want to work on personally. All right, the next thing. Influenced by the success of others. So a learner mindset would look at it like find lessons and inspiration in the success of others, which motivates you to learn more. So you see somebody else's success and you go, oh, how are they doing that? I want to get better at that. That could be like, something like somebody who's had more experience in the craft, and you look at their success where they've gone. But a fixed mindset might feel threatened and say, you might judge them or perceive it like, oh, maybe I should have been there. Risk in innovation is the next one. That's the last one in this part. So the learner mindset. Are you willing to try new things and innovate? Understanding that failure is often a part of the process. So again, that goes with what I was saying earlier. You've got to take risks to try new methods, new ways of doing it. For me, I don't use a starting knot. I use like the Wilson knot, and there's the Parnell knot, a few other ones, because the way that I string. But there are probably a few situations where using a starting knot would be beneficial. I generally use a starting clamp, and so that offsets that. But it's still, if you have that extra tool, you never know when you're going to use that depending on how you're stringing the racket. Be able to really get a feeling of string patterns so that you can create tie-off holes in different areas so that you don't create little bottlenecks like, a string, a natural gut being tied on a polyester string, or it's too close to a cross string or the knot, or just whatever it is. You've got to like figure out ways to innovate. A fixed mindset, on the other hand, here would stick what they know, just to avoid any type of failure. And I have been in that boat many times. I have just refused to, learn something new. I would just stick with what I knew just to be safe. But I think I see this a lot of times when I look at stringers who just aren't getting any faster, right? And then you offer them a suggestion, maybe like, what's worked for me and what's required on tour is you pre-weave, the racket. It's like, no, that doesn't really help. That doesn't save me any time. You've got to be willing to get past the failure to make something like that work and have another skill set there. So what does all that mean? How does this help us? So think about the concept of a learner mindset, how you fit into that, and how you could maybe learn from that and get more proficient. The next part talks about, okay, so what does this mean for your, application? So let's put this to some application here. Just a couple things. The first thing is education. Okay, so that would be getting education in your craft. However, that is tutorials, joining communities, um, being part of where like-minded, or not maybe like-minded, but where everybody is learning the same thing. Career. I don't know why the screen got a little bit messed up there. So having the growth mindset, the learner mindset, how does that help you in your career? It can totally get you to a next level in your career as a racket stringer, right? Or in anything that you do. Um, but you will go a lot farther than if you have a fixed mindset. And then personal growth. This can also flow into other things, your personal life and different successes that you want to achieve. It's just, I think, the way to develop yourself and feel more accomplished. So, some quick strategies to cultivate this: self-awareness exercises, kind of engage in activities that you can reflect in your learning process. Kind of sit down and kind of think about, where have you been going with your learning process? Are you making headway, or are you facing roadblocks? Set some goals, set some learning goals. I wanted, some SMART goals, something that's achievable and something that's written down, um, and work on that. Reflect on daily learning. So you can set goals, but every day kind of think about and reflect on your stringing, your goals for that, and then just take small steps to create large success, right? And then seek feedback actively. This is really important because you need to be willing to accept feedback. And that is the way that you grow and develop. And so being part of a community where you can have other people give you feedback, like one-to-one mentoring, those type of things. So that is the end of what I wanted to go over today. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about having more of a learner attitude and a mindset when you know, look at how others are doing it, when you are up against accepting feedback, and when you are evaluating others, or chiming in on a chat. Because I find myself sometimes, you get attacked because the way that you say you want to do, string a racket, or the way that you tied this knot. So yes, there's a lot of people out there that just want to just be haters, um, but you've got to have an open learner type mindset to get past it, to develop your trade. And so that's all I wanted to talk about today. So hopefully that can help you in the way that you think about racket stringing, and how this, like the psychological concept, could apply to anything, but specifically to racket stringing. So I will see you in the next video.